Welcome everyone to Managing a New Reality. Our webinar series is really designed to help parents, especially parents who have children with special needs, have strategies and actionable steps and things that they can do to get out of this place of overwhelm where everything is constantly changing and into a place where they actually feel like they're starting the day in action, that they're acting with intention, and that they're able to adjust their schedule or adjust their strategies as needed, especially as they begin to learn about establishing new routines. And today our special guest is Danette Meigel. She is the Youth and Teen Director at the Westport Weston YMCA. And she'll be talking to us a little bit also about that teaching perspective and what is reasonable to expect as a parent/teacher, and also a bit about continuing to think about how you're going to build in movement and self-regulation opportunities throughout the day so that we can make everything a bit more successful. So on that note, Danette, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'll let you take it from there and introduce yourself.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Danette Meigel, and I am the Youth and Teen Director, Special Needs Coordinator, and Head Teacher for the after-school programs at the Westport Weston YMCA. I was talking about recently about taking on the role as a teacher. Many people, as you know, we have a new situation and a lot of us are staying at home and we're doing work at home, we're managing schedules, we're doing all kinds of things, and then we get this packet and we have to work with our children and get them into a routine, and because the routine is not the same as it has been in the past. So I was thinking about my first teaching experience, and I used to dance in a ballet company out on Long Island, and it was a professional company, and they had a program where the performers would be teachers as well, and I became a teacher in dance. And when I taught my first class, I didn't know that people didn't know how to skip, and I didn't know that I had to break down each step to get that child to arrive to the point of being able to transfer weight, and it was really a challenge. And so, you know, with a lot of work and understanding where I fell short and what I needed to learn, I was able to build on that and the skills. But the skills didn't just come to me just because I got into a classroom or anything like that. And I was thinking how parents in general, like if you are working in a corporate job or something like that, or you know, who knows, there's a million and one different occupations that you could possibly have. Maybe teaching is not the thing that comes to you most naturally. And so I thought about that. I shared with Aubrey a little bit about that. And I don't know, Aubrey, if you would be willing to speak a little bit about your first teaching experience.
So yes, my one stint as a teacher before I realized that I'm definitely better one-on-one and in small groups is when I worked at a nursery school for the summer when I was in college. And I don't know, magically, I had just enough credits in developmental psych and babysitting to qualify for the job. Hindsight, maybe that wasn't the best thing, but I was totally overwhelmed, which I'm sure you guys are too. And it is really challenging to take, you know, a room full of children, however many you have, and try to get them all, you know, to cooperate and do what you need them to do, especially if it's sitting down in front of a Zoom screen, you know, 4 times a day or however many times a day are scheduled. And so I ended up picking up a book just to help me, just grabbing at some sort of little tips and tricks for classroom management, which is, I think, some of the things that we'll be talking about this week, you know, with your own child. And I just turned everything into a game. And okay, well, the quietest person gets to line up. Okay, well, And what it ended up being that while the other kids might have been yelling at the kids who weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing, I really shifted the atmosphere to be really positive and more activity oriented and supportive for the children. And I think that makes such a huge difference when you're trying to engage children. Is it's so easy to get frustrated, especially now. And how do we, manage that frustration, but come at it from a place of intention and what's the goal that we want to accomplish. And I think, I don't know, you as a teacher, Danette, like when you first started teaching, what were your first go-to things to try to get kids a little bit more engaged?
Well, that's a really good question. So what I ended up doing and what I ended up learning worked the best is using tape as boundaries. So I would tape the floor and I would let all the children put their toes on the floor, and then if they wanted to use a prop, and they always want to use the props are fun. So if they wanted to use a prop, they had to have their toes on the line. And sometimes it takes about 6 or 7 tries, 7 days of doing that. It doesn't happen just because you put the tape there that they're going to listen to you and have that boundary. But there's other things that I use boundaries I'll talk about a little bit later on, but those are my beginning parts. And also just taking deep breaths and knowing that it's okay for me to make a mistake. And I think that's the bigger piece, is that I think that when you first approach teaching, we just want to do the best. We want to get that message across, and it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, that's how we learn anything, So yeah, I think that would be the main thing. Anybody else have anything? I see we have a couple of people on. Do you want to share something, Aileen? You got that big smile on. I don't see. I think
you got to turn your volume on. You're still on mute.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, I think the tape is a great idea. And I had a similar experience, Danette, when I was running a camp. And, here I'm used to my one-on-one sessions and then doing these big motor groups in a gym, and I found that the louder everyone got, the louder I got, which isn't a good strategy.
Not effective.
For co-regulating. So I also have been using just little dots, those little dots that mark bases or spaces, or if there's a square or just an area that I can say, keep your feet here when you're doing something else. That's been really helpful too. Just having that visual of where you want them to hold their body so that they can do something else with their upper body.
Yeah, that's great. Terry, do you have anything?
Am I on? Okay, so yeah. I was thinking about the time in the regular classroom when kids have to transition from one activity to another. They have a lot of time. They have, that warning time. The teacher might flick the lights. They might do a clapping sequence. The child will clap back. So there's that transition time that's built in. So when we're at home, we want to make sure that we're recognizing that kids typically need a lot of time to transition. So stopping the activity they're doing, orienting to the new activity and beginning the new activity. And for young kids, especially, that doesn't happen with great automaticity. So that parents can remember that when they're giving kids warnings about, we're going to stop this, and we're going to do that, we want to give them enough time in order to be able to make those transitions.
And speaking to that, Terry, I know that some of the schools have different things that they're doing. So you might want to talk to a teacher and find out what they're doing in that classroom that's been working, because you have to think about it. The children have been there for more than 6 weeks. And so if the teacher's walking around with a little sign that's a hand that says 5 minutes, we're changing to the next thing, then that might be something the parent could do, or maybe the child can be a part of getting that, making that hand or something,
I remember when my daughter was in first grade and I was talking with the teacher, and she just kind of did a clap sequence and the kids dropped to the ground like I'd never seen before. And I was so impressed. These 26-year-olds just boom, they were just right in line. And I thought, wow, I can't get that to happen at home. But I didn't need to get 26-year-olds to do that. But now we're teachers at home, we may need to do that. So that's a great idea, finding out what strategies the teacher used, because that's already built in and familiar to them. Now you may have 3 children with 3 different types of strategies, but there may be some that are familiar to all of them and that you can use.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the other thing to keep in mind too is, remember, like, there are a lot of teachers this week that are now just getting on Zoom as some of the schools have gotten set up. And so what you had as a potential routine for last week is not your potential routine for this week. And all of a sudden you have a lot more fixed points in your schedule where you have to get your kid logged on. And remember that also the teachers know that probably 50% of their class needs some degree of movement and fidgeting or flexible seating option or something like that. So they don't actually have an unreasonable expectation that you're going to be sitting in front of Zoom the entire time, especially if they know their kids and they've been in the class with them for so long. I'm sure so many of them will tell you how long it took them, that first 6 weeks of school just to even figure out a way to get the most engagement, from their class. So knowing that it takes 6 weeks to develop a routine, are there anything that you would things that you could recommend now, maybe just in terms of things to add to your flexible seating or something, Danette? Because I know you had mentioned that you are a student as well, and you're always trying to balance that big movement break with what do I use in the moment to help me get through this work.
Right. I do as a student, and also when I'm working on documents that are really detail oriented and I have to focus extremely, I tend to have these under my desk. I don't know if you could see them so well, but they're balls, and they're very, like, you can't squish them or anything, so they're hard. And I roll them back and forth while I'm studying, and I actually find that to be comforting. And I also memorize that, like, the material that I'm trying to work on. I'm very, like, focused on it and memorizing it very easily. In between breaks on a day that's nice out, what I like to do, if I'm transitioning, let's say from editing some kind of profile or something like that, and then going into a class online or something like that, and I need to just take a break so I can change gears from one type of topic to another, I'll go out skateboarding, because I like the feeling of the vibrations of all the pebbles underneath my board. I have a long board, I love it, and I happen to live by the beach, so I get to actually go for a walk there as well. But we were talking about also in some of the flexible seating, Aubrey, like, I've seen people put the stretch bands, like exercise bands, around the bottom of the chair. What do you think of that? Like, or do you?
I think it depends on the kid. If your child doesn't have a very stable body and you give them something that moves a lot or something that picks their feet up off the ground, then you're not setting them up for success, because they're actually spending more time trying to hold their body up. However, if you have a kid that is always kicking their legs or pushing on pushing on something, then yeah, the bands might be more appropriate. So think about it as, some kids need stability and support. So can you give them a chair that gives them more like pressure and body support so they can pay attention? Think of it like the kids who lay down at circle time, for example, while they're listening to a story. It's because it's too much work to hold their body up. But then if you've got the kid that, really needs movement and rocking to be alert and engaged, you're going to want to pick seating that allows for the movement and rocking so that they can actively listen. So while I'm not a big fan of sitting on a yoga ball to type on the computer per se, because I think your eyes kind of bounce up and down while you're rocking, at the same time, if the child's just listening to the teacher, it can be a really good strategy if they don't have to always be looking at the screen while their teacher's talking.
I like that. Aileen, do you have something you want to say? No? Sorry. Okay.
So,
okay, so I'm going to move on, because I see that we're running out of time and I don't want to lose that opportunity. But some of the ideas that I was thinking about sharing, basically starting from self-care and going into taking moments by yourself, or quiet time, even time for the family, so that maybe you set a time in your day and your schedule where everybody's quiet. And so in the self-care spot, I wanted to talk about the 3 R's. So that would be recharge, renew, and then respond. And so
could you say
it's
that
really
once again,
important that we
Danette, could you
Sure.
say that once again, because you were breaking up? What are your 3 R's?
Recharge, renew, and respond. So that you can, if you recharge, if you take a moment where, like, if an activity is getting a little bit challenging, maybe one of the parents had to be on a phone call, there might be multiple children doing a variety of activities, maybe one is trying to focus, one is just a million scenarios could happen. You might need to really recharge yourself, take a minute and recharge, and then re-enter, like you're renewed, so you can go into that activity again and start over and respond in a more calm and quieter way, or feel more calm. And Terry, you're shaking your head. What do you think of that?
No, and we were talking earlier and just reminding parents that you don't have to engage in every argument that you're invited to with your kids. So
Right.
Many times our children will accuse us of not knowing what we're talking about when we're trying to teach them in a way that's unfamiliar to them, or the way that we learned how to do something. And sometimes things can get a little contentious, just thinking about this e-learning, at-home learning environment. So if you're feeling that tension rise up, which we often do, this is a great opportunity to model that self-awareness for our kids and say, you know what, I feel myself getting a little upset or tense, and I sense that you're getting a little upset or tense, so maybe we need to go take a break. And this is where you can recharge, renew, and then come back and respond versus react, which is different. Responding is what we want, reacting is what we don't want. And so that we can also model for our kids the right way to handle ourselves when we're starting to get frustrated. Go take a break, do what we need to do to calm down, and come back to the situation, hopefully with more skills and a calmer head.
Yeah.
I
And I'm sure some of you are thinking, well, what if I'm in the middle of the Zoom session with my teacher, and now I'm embarrassed, my kid's running everywhere, I'm trying to get them to join the group, and what's going on? Now I just feel like I'm failing 6 ways from Sunday. Your teachers they know your kids. They know which kids get up and move, which kids don't have great tolerance for the reading lesson, which kids, can't do the speech drill that well, and, they often need to redirect them. So they know that they're going to be coaching some of the parents on the side. They also, I'm sure, would welcome emails from the parents saying, hey, I'm really struggling with this Zoom session. Because remember, a lot of them are just doing the Zoom sessions for the first time this week, which means, again, we're on a whole new learning curve from last week, and they don't know how it's going to go any more than you know how it's going to go. And you don't know how many Zoom sessions you're going to have to schedule. So if you communicate with your team in advance, maybe you are going to turn off the FaceTime part of the video and get up and go take your movement break and come back. You're not disrupting the class to, have a little icon up there while your kid is bouncing on a ball and coming back. Like it's appropriate because it's also appropriate when they were in the classroom.
And just to add to that piece, these are great opportunities for having a pre-event discussion with your child about what expectations, what this is going to be like, how long they're going to need to sit there, maybe set a timer so they can have that visual representation of how long that lesson will be, and then have a debrief after. How was that? Was that, how did you feel about that? Let's see what we can do better, maybe changing the location in the home, look at some different flexible seating options, but approach it as a learning experience, because this is going to be a week of learning, because we're going to be possibly doing things differently. So instead of looking at things that aren't working as failures, looking at them as opportunities to learn, regroup, and then make adjustments.
That's great. I want to just quickly go through a couple of different activities and everything that I think will be fun. When I'm at the YMCA, I use these little discs, and they slide all over the place, and it's fun, and it's a great way of doing exercises. And I was thinking about, well, I don't have those discs here, so what can I use? And then I started thinking of different activities that I would do. And I'm going to actually turn off my background so you could see my hands, because I don't have a green screen. So let me see if I can do that right there. All right. Here we go. Okay, better? So there we go.
Are you trying to make everything jump up? You want me to share?
Did it jump? What do you mean?
Nope. Do you want your,
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, if you know what, not yet. I was just trying to change the background for a second. But if you want to share the slide, not the slide, it's a PDF. And thank you for getting that together. And everybody at the Westport Weston Family Y helped me out with that as fast as they could, but I'm still not a techie. So I don't know what I'm doing. And Aubrey, thank you so much. But I have these socks and they're very cozy and everything, but I don't have carpets on my floor. So I was able to slide around and I was having fun with that. But also then I started saying, well, I wonder if I could do some stretches like on the table, sliding them like that. And then just playing around with these were just a lot of fun. And one of the activities that I do with the sliders that we use at the Westport Weston Family YMCA is like the gliders that we use. I usually do like these climbers. So my feet are behind me, and I think it's in that picture. If not, you guys can probably go online. I think Aubrey Ware is going to be the PDF if they want to retrieve it.
Let me show you. I'll just bring
Okay.
it up now.
All right.
So I will be posting Danette's PDF, which is right here. And if you want to just talk about it a little bit, Danette, I can put the link in the chat box, but then I'll also put it on the YouTube video.
Okay, so Shelley Goldman put this together for me, and actually for the YMCA, and you'll find this on the Westport Weston Family YMCA Facebook page or the westporty.org website. The website actually has so much to offer, and you'll be able to see like all different kinds of activities for different ages, and it's actually, I'm really impressed. I've like, when I went online and everything, I just can't believe how fast everybody got all that information up, and how many tools there are for so many different things, I mean, and different ages. So if you get a chance, really go visit that for some ideas. If you can scroll it though for me so I could see the next page. Yeah, so you see to the right of the mountain climbers. So I would be on my floor, like the middle person in the end there, and I would put my sliders or my socks on my feet and have fun doing that. Actually, is really fun because you can slide all over the place, and then you can do all kinds of crossbody things or whatever. But it would obviously, you'd have to like, you know, you might have to modify that depending on how you know your child or yourself, because these are great things for us to take care of ourselves. Also, if you scroll more down, I know we're coming to the end, so I'm trying to be fast. There's a basket down at the bottom, a laundry basket, but you don't only have to do like squats. In this one, you see the laundry basket squat and some ideas, but you could also tie a string on that and do a trolley or pull type thing. Some of the other ideas that are not on there, if you want to flip that off, we can go into, were themed weeks. So like, thank you. So a themed week, like, let's just say maybe you and your family come together and you say, hey, why don't we put out a whole bunch of ideas out there and see what we could do for a themed week. So an example, Mexican. A Mexican themed week could have Mexican food, and then they can come up with a menu and help with the menu planning, and maybe even preparations like making, I don't know, some kind of taco or something like that. And then in addition to that, you can have the Mexican hat dance, and depending on how involved the whole family is, and you can modify accordingly, and you can come up with your own activities. But there are so many ideas. And then in terms of like when you have the teenagers, a lot of times they're like, everything is about buy-in. If you can present something in a way that everybody can buy into and they're a part of it, they're going to have more fun with it, and so will you. And so like, just things to keep in mind, there's TikTok, right? But I wouldn't go and do TikTok without first understanding how it works, and, you know, as the parent, and check everything out. But it's so much fun to make those, and I've seen a couple of my friends, and they've made them, and it's with the whole family. Everybody's got something. You can make a video for your for grandma, grandpa, cousins, or whatever, or make a Zoom and do something like that, and just throw the music on, have fun, have hula hoop contest, and also talking about, like, Aileen, what you were saying with the squares or circles. You were saying circles. You could use almost anything to create those spots that you want to put on the floor. And even if you had, like, let's say red and blue, you could say, okay, I'm going to put music on, and everybody has to move around a certain way to get to the, like, to get to the red ones, or to get to the blue ones, or to get from one to another, but you have to change. And you could say, you know, crawl, whatever, an animal, you can use any of those things. And then another, like, if you've been watching all of the ones, the webinars that we had from last week, I think you can still watch them. There's so much information in there. So there's so many things that you could do where it involves, you know, head movements, shoulder movements, just getting your body to move around, tapping. And I was thinking also, like, if you did a cha-cha-cha type thing, you can add, if you see Aileen's piece, you know, she had the cha-cha-cha.
Uh-oh.
Cha 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 cha, and you could just add these tapping points. You are getting so much information. And Aubrey, I also purchased your ebook. I love it. I think honestly, it's beautiful, and thank you. And I'm going to share that with my staff. I think that it's got a lot of takeaways from it and everything like that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know about my ebook, I actually, the first webinar we did, we talked about the body activated learning concepts, and I put together some different movements that you can kind of pick one from each category, really with the goal of helping the senses be supported for the learning test that's coming next, but also to give your body energy to restore, regroup, take vision breaks and whatnot from screen time. I can definitely put the link in this webinar so that everyone can check it out. I don't know if in 2 minutes I can get it to pop up on the screen. I probably should have done that earlier. But I just got some fantastic feedback from an OT who called me this morning to get another book and the ebook because she's really been wanting to use it on Zoom with her families. And she had started using it with the teachers at her school. And she said that it made the teachers so much better able to make observations about the child and the way they move, the way they use their body, the way they use their vision to guide what their body is doing, as opposed to just overusing their vision during screen time activities and writing and reading. Now we'll be talking a lot more on screen time on Wednesday, so maybe I can get into some of that. I don't want to do all that today. But do you have any, I don't know, I guess, final words or final strategies if you just started one thing tomorrow that you put as like an anchor into your schedule, or a suggestion for flexible seating or something, what would that be, Danette?
Well, honestly, I think that the biggest takeaway that I would want to plant or put into everybody's mind is self-care for the parent. I think that starting the day off with that, and really just remembering that you're doing the best you can with all the tools that you have. And you know your child. So if you need help, you have a whole bunch of people to reach out to. You have a whole bunch of webinars to look at that have already happened and that are upcoming. And I think that everything that you could possibly need is here and available. So, you know, on one of the websites, in the ebook. And I think the ebook also, by the way, that has so much information that even if you're not using it, you could use it as for anybody. You could use it as, you know, a parent. I liked what I was playing around with it.
Yeah,
so.
it's very simple. There's not a lot of sensory terminology for exactly that reason. Our bodies need energy, or they need to get restored, or we got to take a moment to regroup. So using language with your child like that is a great way to really help empower them and get them and help them to get to know themselves and how they're feeling too, because it doesn't need to be a lot of therapy kinds of things. You know, you're talking, and while you service children with special needs, you are a movement specialist and you use your talents, you know, at the YMCA. So I just wanted to let everyone know, because it is 12:30. I have a couple things that I want to say first, tomorrow we have a fantastic BCBA who's going to be our guest speaker, and he's very specifically going to talk to those families that have children who have aggression, self-injurious behaviors, maybe running behavioral programs or get ABA style teaching methods. And he's going to really try to give you some support and also tell you what's kind of realistic in what BCBAs are actually expecting you to be able to accomplish at home as parents. The second thing is I also interviewed a guest over the weekend that couldn't be on our live webinars. She is a mom that currently homeschools. I will be posting that video on the playlist on the Sensational Achievements YouTube channel today. She was fantastic, has so many great and actionable strategies, but also some really great insights in terms of parenting and management strategies as well. And you can really kind of hear in her language how she fosters empowerment and helping to be the leader of her little family community, because she is a mother of 5, as opposed to just acting and reacting all throughout the day to get the job done. So definitely check out that video on the Sensational Achievements YouTube channel. If you are having trouble with the links and whatnot, I'm very sorry. I'm not sure what is happening in Zoom, and my only guess is that there are just so many people using Zoom that maybe it's a little bit slow in communicating with some of the other systems that are online that kind of integrate and manage all the Zoom information. So I apologize for that. Hopefully that's something that we can continue to work out the kinks on as we go through the week. So thank you everyone for coming today. Are there any final questions from any of our attendees? I haven't seen anything in the chat box today, but certainly, you know, if you want to post comments, if you want to email us directly, Danette, where can they find you?
The Westport Weston Family YMCA, and my my email is dmeigel@westporty.org.
Perfect. Thanks so much. And thank you everyone for joining today, and we will see you tomorrow.